Who will lead Kansas?
I ran for governor because I wanted to get our state back on track.
She accomplished nearly nothing during the first 3 years of her administration.
Derek Schmidt supported the agenda that drove us into the ditch in the first place.
There are fewer people working in this state today than there were the day she took office.
Before you vote, experience the candidates for yourself. From the Doubletree Hotel in Overland Park, it's the Kansas Governor's Debate, presented by the Johnson County Bar Association. More than 1,300 attorney members serving the community since 1938. Additional support comes from AARP Kansas, keeping Kansans in the know about life at 50 plus. And now, here's your debate moderator from Kansas City PBS, Nick Haynes.
And it all comes down to this. Hello, everyone. Welcome. The two candidates on my stage today are going to be meeting for the very last time right now this hour before Election Day. Is that worthy of a handshake? Yes. You can applaud at that, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. Have you noticed that our nation's governors are embroiled in some of the biggest hot-button issues that are dividing America right now, from abortion to immigration, from what's taught in your schools to issues of everything from guns? And this year, you have a say in who that next governor is going to be in that office. Does Democrat Laura Kelly deserve 4 more years in the governor's mansion? Derek Schmidt is trying to find her a new home. He's the Republican candidate, just completing his 3rd term as Kansas Attorney General. In many ways, what we're doing this hour is a job interview. You're applying for a position that pays more than $110,000 a year, comes with a company car and a driver and a free house, and you may even be able to skip the line at restaurants and get the table of your choice. Well, I'm not certain about... No? Okay. That might not be true. So the question is, why are you more qualified for this job than the other candidate we're interviewing today, Derek Schmidt?
Well, Nick, thanks to Kansas City PBS and to the Johnson County Bar for hosting us today. Kansans will decide what qualifications are most important for the governor to lead this state for the next 4 years. From my vantage point, this is not about me. This is about you. This is about the people in this state who are not better off than they were 4 years ago. I'm running for governor for all the people whose jobs were declared non-essential, and for all those whose kids were locked out of school and they are still struggling with the consequences of those decisions. I'm running for governor for the people who needed unemployment benefits and weren't able to get them when the system failed them and they couldn't pay their bills. I'm running for governor for the people who know somebody or love somebody whose lives have been disrupted by fentanyl, because we won't secure the southern border in Joe Biden's administration. I am running for governor because Kansas can do so much better.
You have 60 seconds to answer the same question, Laura Kelly.
Well, thank you, Nick. And Nick, I do have to say you look like an expectant father over there just before you came up on the stage. So anyway, thank you to the Johnson County Bar Association. I really am honored to be here again today. 4 years ago, I ran for governor to get Kansas back on track, after the prior administration had really left us in a world of hurt. And now, despite all of the challenges that our country has faced these past few years, we are back on track. By working together, Republicans and Democrats together, we've balanced our budget, we have fully funded our schools, we have recruited some of the largest companies in the country to come here, and we've cut taxes for working people who needed relief. I am really proud of my bipartisan record, but maybe most of all, I'm proud that we have restored some sense of civility to our politics, a spirit of working together, meeting in the middle to get things done. We've got to stay on track. We've got to keep moving forward.
We're told from national polls that rising prices is the #1 concern on America's minds this election year. What is the biggest policy change you would make to help Kansans cope with prices at the pump on their utility bills and the rising cost of everything from cereal to eggs at the grocery store, Laura Kelly?
Well, I think I've done probably the most important thing that we could do that was within our control to fight inflation, and that was to eliminate the sales tax on food. We have a 6.5% state sales tax on food. That is actually when you combine it with our local taxes, the highest in the country. It was immoral. I proposed to eliminate the sales tax all at once. Should have been effective July 1st. It wasn't. Little game playing going on, little politics being played, but I will propose another immediate elimination of our food sales tax January when the legislature comes back to town.
Derek Schmidt.
Well, what should have happened is that the sales tax on food in Kansas today ought to be half what it is, and it ought to be on path to zero come January. That's where it would have been if the governor simply would have signed in 2019 the food sales tax reduction bills that the legislature put on her desk. But we are nonetheless where we are, and the question now is going forward. I think going forward there are two things we have to focus on. One is additional relief on the tax side or the cost side, things we can do. We have proposed, for example, in our campaign, something called Retire Tax Free to help seniors in particular deal with the cost of living in retirement. And we also have to focus on costs. In the last 4 years, the state of Kansas has spent more money at a faster pace than ever before in the history of this state. And those bills will come due and make the problem worse.
You've got 30 seconds to rebut.
Yeah, I've always prided myself on my fiscal responsibility. You know, I have veto bills that have come to my desk that would have really spiraled us right back into the Brownback era. A couple of the ones that Derek Schmidt's talking about are just those. But we have also cut $1 billion in taxes for Kansas citizens over the period of time that I have been governor.
And the final word goes to you on that question, Derek Schmidt.
Well, many of those tax cuts, of course, were initiated by Republicans in the legislature, and because the governor was in office, she did sign them, which is fortuitous that she signed this one. She should have signed the bill in 2019. And every time the governor points out that the 2019 bill she found unfortunate and problematic, it reminds me that every single provision in that bill that she vetoed twice became law prior to now, other than the food sales tax reduction. The only thing her veto stopped in 2019 was having the food sales tax half its rate today and on its way to zero
Thank you
in January.
very much. Derek Schmidt, if you were picked by voters in November, what changes, if any, would you make to the state's abortion laws or to the regulations that govern abortion clinics?
Well, I am pro-life. I prefer a Kansas that has fewer abortions, not more. Obviously, Kansas voters spoke to a portion of this issue in August and made the decision that any state involvement in this area is going to have to satisfy exacting judicial scrutiny, and we have to respect that decision going forward. I do believe that going forward, the biggest challenge will be in defending those limitations and restrictions that are already on the books. I believe they will be subject to legal challenge. I am committed to defending them going forward. And the governor has made no such commitment. In fact, her views on this, as best I can tell, are far out of the mainstream. I've yet to hear her articulate any restriction on access to abortion that she would support. In fact, she voted against every one that came before her when she was in the state Senate and vetoed every one that landed on her desk since she's been governor.
Laura Kelly.
Well, I think we saw on August 2nd that an overwhelming majority of Kansans believe that a woman's right to make private medical decisions should rest with her and not with politicians. I think they saw that amendment as serious government overreach. And I believe, and always have believed, and been very consistent on my position on this, that a woman's medical decisions should be made between her, her family, and her doctor, and that women should have bodily autonomy equal to that of men.
Derek Schmidt, you have a chance to rebut the 30 seconds.
So the governor just spent 60 seconds and a lot of words without telling you any limitation on abortion that she would support. The fact is she voted no on all of the common sense, mostly bipartisan restrictions already on the books in Kansas. Limits on late-term access, requirements for parental consent, prohibitions on taxpayer funding. I believe those positions are out of the mainstream. I will defend those current laws on the books. The governor's position suggests she would not.
Final word to you, Laura Kelly.
Yeah, I really, 18 years have had the same position on this issue, so I really don't have much more to say.
New question. What, in your judgment, Governor Kelly, is the most serious threat currently facing the state of Kansas?
Well, actually the most serious threat right now is probably workforce shortage. As I've gone all around the state, we just finished up our Prosperity on the Plains tour, and no matter where I went, it was workforce, it was housing, it was affordable childcare, and it was water. And those are the kinds of things that Kansans are thinking about. Those are the kinds of things that my administration is working on to resolve. We actually, because of the economic success that we have had, bringing in $14 billion of new economic development, 51,000 newer retained jobs, we have actually exacerbated some of those problems. But you can trust that we have got all eyes on, and we are working like the devil to ensure that we meet those challenges of workforce, housing, and childcare.
And Derek Schmidt, the biggest threat facing Kansas for you is blank.
Well, I think it's a couple of things. Certainly there are many serious problems facing our state, and we have to have an all-of-the-above approach to dealing with them. But I do think that the flow of drugs across the southern border of the United States, that it's been methamphetamine that's been king for many years. It is now deadly fentanyl that is in our communities. It is mostly manufactured in precursor chemicals in China and south of the border, shipped into Kansas and distributed by drug cartels. It is killing our children. And the federal administration right now, under President Biden's leadership, will not address it. They will not secure the southern border of the United States, which transforms what was a national border security or immigration issue into a public health and public safety issue for moms and dads and families right here in Johnson County and around this state.
30 seconds to rebut, Laura Kelly.
Yeah, no doubt. I believe that we need secure borders. But if we really want to deal with the fentanyl issue and other substance abuse issues facing our state, then we need to finally, once and for all, expand Medicaid so that people can access the services that they need to deal with the issues that they're suffering from.
Final word to you, Derek Schmidt.
Well, I've helped with other of my colleagues lead the national effort to hold drug companies accountable for their opioid addiction that they peddled for profit. We are bringing $200 million into this state over the next several years in order to specifically address substance abuse issues and addiction issues. But at the end of the day, we must stop the flood on the supply side. And while the governor says she supports a secure southern border, she has taken no action and said scarcely few words on what that means to her.
Let's move next to the issue of schools. What role, if any, should the Kansas governor play in classroom instruction or in deciding which books should be kept on school library shelves? And that goes first to you, Mr. Schmidt.
Well, I think that the Kansas governor and other leaders in Kansas have to be a voice for the people we want to represent. I think the decisions wind up getting made locally or by our officials, such as elected leaders in the Board of Education or perhaps the legislature when enactment of law is appropriate. But the bottom line is so many Kansas kids and families are suffering right now because their kids were locked out of schools, their lives were disrupted, they are dealing with serious mental health issues, suicidal ideation is up. We have to do far more to be a voice for those parents and families and kids whose voices have not been heard. And I think that's an appropriate role for the governor.
Laura Kelly.
First and foremost, it's the governor's responsibility to ensure that our public school system is fully funded. And we have done that for the past 4 years. I also think it's important for the governor to be a champion for our schools and our teachers, our students, and our parents. And I have done that. I've been a very, very strong advocate for our public school system ever since I came to Kansas, but certainly since I came into the Senate, and I'll continue to do that. I have said often that I want my legacy to be that Kansas has the most robust, comprehensive early childhood education system in the country. And we're working now with our businesses and our communities to ensure that that legacy is fulfilled. We know that kids are having lots of mental health issues. Long before the pandemic, we were developing mental health services in our schools in partnership with our community mental health centers.
Derek Schmidt, 30 seconds to rebut.
Well, it is critical that we keep Kansas schools constitutionally funded. I've committed to that, and we are going to do that, as any governor would, because it's legally required in this state. But it's not enough just to write the check. It doesn't accomplish what we need for our kids to fully fund schools and then lock the kids out of them or not stand up to support parental involvement. parents are much more engaged as a group right now than they were before because they saw firsthand, up close and personal, things that happened with their kids and the damage done to them. They want more involvement. We must advocate for that.
Final word goes to you, Laura Kelly.
Yeah, I have a hard time being lectured by you, Derek, about our public schools. You know, let us remember that it was you who was in the court defending the cuts to public education under the Brownback administration.
California has been making the national headlines. We're becoming the first state to say by 2035 we're not going to sell any new gas-powered vehicles. You can still drive your old ones, but you can't sell new ones. Would you roll out such a plan in Kansas, Governor Kelly, in your next 4 years? If not, what's the biggest change you would propose to improve the environment?
Well, I think you know that we just landed the Panasonic electric battery factory. That will go a long ways to ensuring that we do move to electricity. You know, Kansas is really uniquely focused, though, to lead the way in expansion of renewable energy. You know, we're strong on wind, solar, biofuels, and now even green hydrogen. So when I think about climate change and those kinds of things, I really see it as a huge job creation opportunity for our state. And we are doing everything in our Department of Commerce and Department of Agriculture to ensure that we're bringing those kinds of companies to our state to further our economy, but also to contribute to cleaner energy.
Derek Schmidt.
Well, I didn't quite hear the governor's answer to the question, which is whether she would advocate policies like California's. My answer to that is no. I think Kansas is a wonderful place, and we don't want to be more like California. And I do not think their command and control approach is the right way to deal with energy policy. I support an all-of-the-above energy policy. I think that has to include renewables and things that are going to move us into that space. But it also has to include our traditional energy sources because they are the basis for affordability and reliability for so many Kansas families who are struggling financially today because of Laura Kelly's big spending and Joe Biden's inflation. I've stood up and fought back against many of the overreaching regulatory actions of the Biden administration that continue to add to those costs in terms of energy, and so far the governor's taken no stance on that.
Laura Kelly, 30 seconds to rebut.
Yeah, I think I'm on the record of also being an all-of-the-above approach to our energy issues, and I will continue to be that. But I do think that we're moving towards more and more renewables, and I think that Kansas needs to jump on that opportunity to bring those businesses to Kansas.
Final word to you, Derek Schmidt.
Well, enough said, so let me just go back. You know, the governor has an unhealthy obsession with one of her predecessors who served in office 8 years ago. But the fact of the matter is, no matter how many times she says it, the fact of the matter is Kansans are far less worried about what some former governor did or mistakes he made than they are about the mistakes this administration is making every single day that's making their lives harder and more expensive. And one of those mistakes is a refusal to stand up to the Biden administration when it does things like attack the Kansas oil and gas industry that is so critical for this state's economy.
Thank you so much. We have questions also from the Bar Association. Bar member Mark asks, just across the state line, Missouri voters will decide in November whether to legalize marijuana. They've already approved pot for medicinal purposes, but Kansas is one of just 3 states yet to legalize marijuana in any form. Would that change under Governor Schmidt or during a second Kelly term, starting with you, Derek Schmidt?
Well, ultimately, public opinion decides these issues, and I think it's clear to anybody watching that public opinion in this country is moving generally in the direction of more permissiveness and more access to cannabis-based products. Here's my thought on the issue. I see people every day whose lives are destroyed or made worse because of addiction issues, and I think that is not a good thing. I think we have to stand up and stand strong against that. I recognize there are very heart-wrenching humanitarian cases like veterans with PTSD or kids with seizure disorder or late-stage cancer patients trying to manage pain, for which the vast majority of people, myself included, would say a bona fide, legitimate medical doctor ought to be able to treat and help that person with whatever substance makes the most sense. I think the challenge from a governor's standpoint is to have leadership that says, how do we accomplish that widely shared view without flinging open the doors, doing this the wrong way, and turning Kansas into Oklahoma or Colorado, which I think were not wise approaches.
Laura Kelly.
Well, I'm glad you finally agree with me. I don't think as far back as the state fair you did not. I have fully supported legalizing medical marijuana for years. You know, I was ranking minority member on the Public Health and Welfare Committee, and I was in the room when those parents were bringing those kids with Dravet syndrome, which is a serious seizure disorder. Kids have hundreds of seizures per day. They were in pain, they needed our help, and we did not give it to them, and we need to. Those same families have now moved to Colorado to be able to secure help for the kids. I don't want them to have to do that. I also do want to take care of our veterans with PTSD, and I want to take care of folks with chronic pain. I also want to deal with the opioid addiction problem, and this would go a long way in helping solve that issue.
You have 30 seconds to rebut, Derek Schmidt.
Well, no new ground broken here. I just think that the issue, the public policy issue, is how do you draw that line? How do you make sure that we can accommodate the things that the vast majority of people agree on and not fling open the door for the harm that comes with essentially recreational use without limitation? The governor's offered no suggestion on how to draw that line. I'll tell you one thing I would insist on. I would insist that Kansas law enforcement leaders are at the table and are a meaningful part of that discussion on line drawing at every stage along the way, because they are the ones who deal with the consequences of addiction in our community every single day.
Thank you. Laura Kelly, final word.
Yeah, I have had those conversations, you know, and I have often said that we won't do this like Colorado did it, you know, where there really was a shop on every corner. This will be a very well-regulated industry that makes sure that the medical marijuana is being used appropriately and not inappropriately. We will not let it spread like wildfire.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams has been making the headlines around here over the last week after declaring in a news conference that the state of Kansas has no brand. Why he picked on Kansas to mock isn't quite clear, but remarkably, thanks to digital technology, Mayor Adams is watching the debate right now. What would you tell him, Laura Kelly?
I would ask him to return my phone call. You know, I actually called the mayor the day after, or tried to reach the mayor the day after, to let him know that my daughter, son-in-law, and my brand new granddaughter will be delivering a thank you package to Gracie Mansion, which is where the New York mayor lives, for putting Kansas even more on the map in a more favorable light. So I do want to do that, and you know, I'm continuing to work to reach him.
Derek Schmidt.
Well, I think my first reaction privately and then publicly was mayor who. I mean, at the end of the day, does it make a lot of difference what the mayor of New York says? And I think in this case, the answer is it probably does matter, which is why I, and apparently also the governor, pushed back on this. Look, we're proud of our state, and we don't want New York's brand, and I say that with all respect to the good people that live in New York City. But under the left of center leadership of this mayor and the folks that run New York right now, their brand is a lot more crime, a lot more violence, a lot less human support, a lot higher cost of livings, all things that I'm running for governor to make sure we don't do here in Kansas.
I don't think we need rebuttal on that question. Is that fair? All righty, can we move on? And this is a question to you, Derek Schmidt. It's been quite some time since fear of crime has been one of the biggest concerns for Kansans, and it's not just violent crime. This past weekend alone, just up the road from us, from this hotel, nearly 100 cars are broken into in a small square block area, including from a gated senior facility, 100 vehicles. What is the single most important action you can take as governor to reduce crime?
Support the men and women in law enforcement and in the prosecution community who keep our communities safe each and every day, who answer the call at 2 in the morning when that 911 phone rings and somebody is pounding at the door or breaking into the car. I am proud in this race to have the endorsement of the Kansas State Fraternal Order of Police, which endorsed Governor Kelly last time in this race. I'm proud to have the endorsement of the Kansas State Troopers Association, who work for her. I'm proud to have the endorsement of more than 30 Kansas sheriffs, current and former. I'm proud to have the endorsement of Sheriff David Groves, the Democrat sheriff of Cherokee County, who came out and supported me this past week, saying that he knows I am the leader for public safety in this state. We must stand unwaveringly with the men and women who actually make a difference in the communities.
Laura Kelly.
You know, I would agree, you know, and we have provided record funding for law enforcement during my administration, because I agree that they need to have the tools and resources to fight the crime that we see on our streets. I also think a positive economy is important if we're going to deal with crime in the long run. We know that a lot of time crime results from poverty. And so as we develop our economy and we get people good jobs, I think that will contribute to lowering it. Now, if you want to talk about endorsements, I got to say that I have the endorsements from every living governor in the state of Kansas, minus one, and that would be Sam Brownback. And I'm very proud of that. They recognize that I have worked in a bipartisan fashion, working across the aisle, bringing people together to get things done for the state, including fighting crime. And I'm very satisfied with the kind of support that I am getting from people who know what this job
Thank you very
entails.
much. You have a chance to rebut.
Well, as with so many of her budgets, the governor's math is off. Governor Jeff Colyer has endorsed me in this race. And the governor she mentioned hasn't endorsed anybody in this race. But be that as it may, the question was about crime. And at the end of the day, the governor has offered no answers or solutions to the fentanyl that's pouring into our community and the violence that comes with it. She has offered no answers or solutions to the methamphetamine that is still here. She has offered no public safety answers whatsoever, other than apparently to talk about budget issues that were either widely supported or, like I say, her math's a bit wrong.
After your last debate at the State Fair, one Kansas columnist wrote that our candidates for governor are stuck in the past, clubbing each other over stuff that happened years ago. This campaign is woefully short on what President George H.W. Bush once called the vision thing, he says. I hope the next debate finds time to prod the candidates on what their vision is for Kansas's future. Laura Kelly, in 60 seconds or less, what is your vision for Kansas's future?
More good things to come. You know, we have really had some great success during my first administration with fully funding our schools, closing the Bank of KDOT, reforming our foster care system, and of course our huge economic development progress. We have other things we need to do. We've got to get Medicaid expanded once and for all. We've been trying to do this for years. It's got to happen. We need to get medical marijuana legalized. We need to get broadband into every home, school, business, and I know there's one more. Anyway, we got to get broadband all out across the state if we're going to continue to grow our state. I want to follow through on my promise to develop the early childhood education system to be the best in the country. We've got lots and lots of things that we plan to do to take this state forward.
Derek Schmidt, what is your vision in 60 seconds or less?
Well, this is an area that the governor and I just disagree in how we approach the leadership position we're talking about. Her focus often is, as it just was, on what the state of Kansas is doing. It is on the state government. My focus is on the men and women and children who live in this state and whether their lives are better off today than they were 4 years ago. And for so many of them, the answer to that is no. So the areas of focus that I think we have to have are what can we do each and every day to try to make daily life more affordable for people who are struggling to make ends meet in Kansas in a time of record high inflation. That has to involve, by the way, not piling on more by continuing to spend more and more and more money to solve every problem that eventually Kansans and our children are going to pay off. I think we have to have a discussion that now that we're out from under school finance litigation because we successfully defended the fix, we have the ability to have a broader discussion about how we best educate our kids and how we make sure that every child has the opportunity to grow to his or her best God-given potential. And I think we have to make sure that this state is safer. We've already talked about it. We have to fight for it each and every day.
Laura Kelly, 30 seconds to rebut.
Everybody in this room remembers what this state looked like 4 years ago. And I asked you at the state fair, were we better off under Brownback than we are now? I want to ask you that question in sort of a different way. You know, if knowing what we know now about what that tax experiment did to our state, including our schools, would you veto it if it came across your desk?
Yeah, the math has to work. And I'm glad you asked, Governor, because you've run like $9 million in television ads that just don't accurately describe either my views or our history. The fact of the matter is you were in the legislature when all of that happened, and you failed to stop it at that point. Despite what you may have said, you didn't get the job done. I was never actually in the legislature at the time that all of those decisions were made. Look, here's the bottom line. You want to focus on things that happened a long time ago with folks that are not on this stage, at least one of us wasn't. I want to focus on where this state is going. And I have a question for you, Governor. Do you think that America and Kansas are better off today than they were before Joe Biden was elected president?
I know you'll find ways to shoehorn that in later, but we do need to move on with our questions. The next one goes to you, Attorney General. You just joined several states in challenging the Biden administration's student loan forgiveness program. If the courts were to overturn that policy, what would you do as governor to make college more affordable for a new generation of students?
Well, President Biden's decision to try to give away federal money that he doesn't have the authority to give away in order to forgive debt for folks who have already graduated has no positive impact on affordability for students now or coming into the system. In fact, it probably has a negative impact because spending $400 billion more dollars out of the public treasury will fuel the inflation that has made everything from food to college even more expensive. I think the answer to the question is we have to have the kind of leadership on the Board of Regents with the governor who focuses on that intently, that will say, look, we are going to make sure that we keep college affordable for Kansas kids and we keep access available, and it has to be an every single day task. There is no sort of one answer. But I would say, Nick, while you're finishing being wired up there, this would be a great opportunity for the governor to answer my question. Does she think that we are better off in Kansas and America today with Joe Biden as president?
You've got two questions to answer. That's 10 in 60 seconds, Laura.
Well, I'm not
Kelly.
going to answer that question because for my entire time in the Senate and for my entire time in the governor's office, I have stayed focused like a laser on Kansas, not on the federal government. In terms of higher education,
Yep.
okay, well, I'm going to do the higher education. So, I think the most important thing we could do and we did do in order to keep education more affordable for kids is support our higher education system. We finally restored all the funding that had been cut out of higher education during the last administration. That's the kind of thing that helps keep tuition flat. The other thing we've done is we've worked with our Board of Regents and we have invested heavily in scholarships across the board to assist students lower income to be able to attend college. We're also working with our business communities and our career and tech ed schools to make sure that kids can, maybe enter college with.
Thank you. We're out of time on that. Thank you. Derek Schmidt, you have 30 seconds to respond.
Well, the answer to my question from me is no, America is not better off with Joe Biden as president. And that includes, for example, his effort to illegally spend $400 billion from taxpayers in order to pay off a portion of loans for folks in an election year. The governor doesn't want to talk about the fact that the leader of her political party, President Biden, is taking this country and affecting this state in ways that are tremendously negative. But they affect us. The Keystone Pipeline cancellation affected oil and gas costs. The Green New Deal does the same. Likewise, the Title IX decisions have a significant effect on the ability.
Thank you. You have a final word, Laura Kelly.
Again, I will reiterate, I focus on Kansas. I have done that. I have worked to bring people together, Republicans, Democrats, to focus on the issues of importance to Kansans. And I think as you look back on my record, we have done a very good job, and Kansas is in a whole lot better shape now than it was 4 years ago.
Thank you. We're going to go back to questions from our Bar Association members, including from member Kevin, who says, I think I speak for most voters when I say that we are sick and tired of the insults and rude behavior that accompanies campaigns these days. I would ask that each candidate sincerely tell us something great that their opponent has done while in office as governor or attorney general. And this starts with you, Laura Kelly.
Oh, I needed a little time to think about that one.
It's not on the tip of your tongue already?
It is not, but give me a second here. Do I have 60 seconds?
You do have 60 seconds.
Okay,
We have a little bit extra here.
I think perhaps the best thing that I can remember would be the setting up of the Youth Suicide Prevention Office.
Thank you. Derek Schmidt.
Only because it's fresh on my mind and we talked about it today, and I mean this sincerely, I think the decision to call Mayor Adams, I think that's an appropriate role for a governor. when the integrity of a state is attacked, and I think a governor is in a unique position to do that.
I don't think we need to do rebuttal on that one, so if it's okay with you, I'm going to move on. Both of you have been running ads, by the way, that reference transgender Kansans. What policy changes, if any, would you make to how transgender individuals are treated in sports, housing, locker rooms, or bathrooms? And it starts with you, Derek Schmidt.
Well, I've been very clear on my position on this issue from day one. I think that it is a matter of fundamental fairness, and I do not think, as a matter of law or policy, that people who are biologically male ought to be competing in women's sports. I think that is counter to the purpose of Title IX. I think that is fundamentally unfair to female athletes, and I think that ought to be the law in the state of Kansas. So as I've said, I would sign that Fairness in Women's Sports Act into law without hesitation.
Laura Kelly.
You know, I actually played a lot of girls' sports and women's sports, and I did it pre-Title IX. So the issue of fairness in women's sports has always been in the forefront of my mind, and I do believe in basic fairness. Nobody should have an unfair advantage. But that's exactly why we have governing bodies like the Kansas State High School Activities Association and the National Collegiate Athletic Association to look at cases on an individual basis, have the facts in front of them, and make rulings. You know, Derek's claim that I support men playing in girls' sports is just so absurd. It is not happening here in Kansas. We really do need to focus on the issues of true concern to people, our education, our economy, our healthcare access.
You have a chance to rebut, Derek Schmidt.
Well, a lot of words, Governor, but ultimately we just fundamentally disagree on this issue. I believe that people who are biologically male should not be allowed to compete in sports that are reserved for female athletes. Period, end of story. Men, women, transgender, use whatever language you want, but I simply believe that principle is common sense and ought to be the law of the state of Kansas. There are 18 states that have adopted that into their state law. I think they are correct. I believe there should be more. I believe Kansas should join us. And by the way, most of those 18 states are performing better economically than the state of Kansas is today.
Thank you very much. The last word goes to you, Laura Kelly.
Yeah, I think, well, you just brought up economics, and that's another reason I'm concerned. It's these kinds of policies and bills that get passed that wreak havoc on your economic development. You know, that is why 4 other Republican governors vetoed very similar legislation, because they knew the impact it would have on their states.
COVID barely registers any longer in public opinion polls listing voter concerns, but in Kansas, obesity has risen, diabetes is up, drug and alcohol abuse has increased, and so are cases of depression and mental illness. As governor, what is the single biggest policy change you will make to improve the health of Kansans? Laura Kelly.
I'll expand Medicaid.
Derek Schmidt.
Well, the governor's said that now for 4+ years, and she hasn't gotten the job done, and I don't know what makes her think she's going to be a more effective leader on that issue next term than she has been in this term. It makes a good thing to talk about in the middle of an election campaign, but at the end of the day, the Kansas legislature, in anything like its current composition, is not going to go that direction in terms of public policy. So my view is we have to look for things we can agree on, Democrats and Republicans together, and can actually get done. And one of the challenges that we have to focus on in the Medicaid system, rather than expanding to able-bodied adults who do not have dependents, which is what the expansion debate has been about, is how can we better support the system as it currently exists, make sure that providers remain in the system in a time of high inflation, and perhaps make decisions such as the one made this year by Republican governors and by the governor here to extend, for example, coverage for new mothers in the postpartum period.
You have 30 seconds to rebut, Laura Kelly.
Well, I never give up, and yes, I have proposed 4 different Medicaid expansion approaches. I will present my 5th in January, and I think the fact that I will never be on the ballot again can take the politics out of it, and the legislature can do what they've wanted to do for a long time. They actually did pass it in 2017. Brownback vetoed it, and I know the House passed it again, and Senate leadership wouldn't let it come to a vote in the Senate because it would have passed.
Final word goes to you, Derek Schmidt.
Well, I don't think it's about the governor. It's about a public policy decision that the people's elected representatives in the legislature have made, and I am skeptical of her view on this. But having said that, I would say this. One of the things I think is critically important that the governor has not supported, because we're talking about a population of people in her expansion model who are able-bodied adults without dependents, I believe there ought to be a work requirement, somebody having a job, getting a job, or getting skills to get a job, if we were ever to consider expanding public medical benefits to them.
Thank you very much. Kansas Attorney General candidate Chris Kobach has just announced that if elected, he will push for a constitutional amendment to directly elect Supreme Court justices in Kansas. As governor, would you support that change or any change to how judges are selected, Derek Schmidt?
Well, I've never advocated Supreme Court elections and am not advocating it now. I do think, and have for a very long time, I've said so in this room, in previous forums as I've been a candidate for Attorney General, I've thought for 15 years that we ought to ask Kansans whether they want to change the selection method for our Supreme Court justices. I have generally advocated something that looks more like the federal model, a couple of different versions, but the idea of having Senate confirmation on the back end to ensure that there are additional eyes and additional accountability. And by the way, we've learned that that actually works and has positive benefits. That model has been adopted, because it can be done by statute, for the Kansas Court of Appeals, and it had the effect of screening out early in the governor's administration a candidate that ultimately everybody, including the governor, concluded was unsuitable for the role but had slipped through scrutiny earlier.
Laura Kelly.
Yeah, I think Kansans hopefully have long memories, and if they don't, they certainly will be reminded should the issue of selection of Supreme Court using the federal model come up. We actually had that before, and in 1954, I think there was something called the triple play, where there was all sorts of shenanigans, and the lieutenant governor was elevated to governor, and the Supreme Court justice chief retired, and then the governor or lieutenant governor appointed the old governor to the court. I think we've seen games being played when that process is in place. That's why Kansans did have an opportunity in 1955 or so to vote to ensure that our Supreme Court justices were selected the way that they are right now. And I think we ought to keep that in place.
Derek Schmidt, you have 30 seconds to rebut.
Well, 70-year-old reforms ought to be revisited just as a general matter in almost any subject matter. This is a good example of that. Look, the majority view in the country is that there ought to be some version of a federal model, and I believe it makes very, very good sense. The problem with the current system, and I recognize the room I'm in here with the bar, but the problem with the current system is that it gives a disproportionate voice to about 9,000 Kansans who are licensed members of the bar in this state. I think we ought to have a more open system where all Kansans have meaningful input on the front end of selection.
Thank you
and
so
the federal
much.
model does that.
Laura Kelly, final word.
Yeah, actually, when we did change the system for appellate court judges, when I became governor, I put the old system back in place. It still have to deal with the Senate confirmation, but I actually put the nominating process back in place for the appellate court judges, because I do believe it's important for people who really understand those jobs, understand the qualifications that are necessary, the temperament that's necessary. I like having those folks screening those candidates before they come into my office.
What percentage of the Kansas governor's time should be devoted to the question of immigration, Laura Kelly?
As much as necessary. I believe that we know that we have the issue of the borders, and I believe, like everybody else does, that we ought to make sure that they're very secure. But I also believe that we have other issues related to immigrants that we've got to have our federal delegation dealing with, particularly on comprehensive immigration reforms to allow us to deal with some of those workforce shortages that we are facing in every industry, but particularly in our agricultural sector. So I would spend my time as governor in the second term, have spent some time in the first term really working with our delegation, working with our stakeholders to ensure that we get those reforms that we need.
Derek Schmidt.
Well, I'm a strong supporter of legal immigration. We are a nation of immigrants, and we should continue to be so. I also believe that Congress has failed in its obligation to give us a functional immigration system, and that that's the root of so many of our problems. But here's what I further believe. I further believe that in the absence of that type of federal fix, it falls to those of us who are responsibility for the safety of our citizens to step up and do what we can within our authority to keep Kansas safe. We've already talked at length about the southern border. The governor talks about it, but she takes no action. She wouldn't even respond. I called it a political game when border governors asked every other governor in the country, including her, to send some assistance. Please send us some help. We had a case that came right out of Johnson County here. I'm looking at Steve Howe over here. It was a case in which a person in the country unlawfully committed identity theft, hurt people in this country. We had to go all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court and won in order to make sure Kansas could enforce our state laws against folks here unlawfully. So this is a state issue, and the governor needs to pay attention to it, whoever the governor is.
And you have 30 seconds to rebut, Laura Kelly.
It is not true that I have not done anything. You know, we have sent National Guard troops to the border to help secure it. I think at the State Fair you said that that wasn't true, that I hadn't done that either, that they had been federalized and that the president had sent them. That's not the way that it works. When our National Guard troops are federalized, it only means that the feds are going to pick up the bill, but the governor still has to sign the authorization for them to go to the border, and I did it.
Okay. Final word to you, Derek Schmidt.
Well, I would just say ultimately it was the President of the United States that made the decision to send those troops to the border, and regardless of that, the governor was apparently so insufficiently proud of her action, she didn't say anything public about it until somebody caught her months later and figured out, when she was trying to rebut my criticism, that Kansas actually had sent folks down to the border. Look, here's the bottom line. The bottom line is that we have an obligation to keep Kansans safe, and that is not, as the governor phrased it, anything that resembles a political game.
Keeping Kansans safe. Since Kansas reinstated the death penalty nearly 30 years ago, not one inmate has been executed. Would you be willing to support abolishing or changing the existing Kansas death penalty law, Derek Schmidt?
No. I support our existing law. I do believe that we need to continue to move cases along and move toward carrying out an ultimate sentence once it is properly affirmed by the courts. And in fact, I've argued those cases myself at the U.S. Supreme Court. I have sat with families who have been involved in these years-long struggles, and I will not give up on them. I can assure you of that. Here's the sort of my perspective on this. We need to have support from all of our leaders in moving these cases through, and I would do that as governor.
Laura Kelly.
Yes, I do support the repeal of the death penalty. In fact, I believe we had debates about this when we were both in the Senate together. We have not executed anybody since 1994, but it costs us millions of dollars every year to keep those folks on death row. I firmly believe that we would be far better off, it would be more financially responsible to do life without parole rather than the death penalty, and I would support that.
You have a chance to rebut, Derek Schmidt.
I would simply say, I would reiterate, I respect the governor's view. We've disagreed on this issue throughout our time together. But I have sat in the room with families whose loved ones have been heinously killed, and I have made the decisions whether or not to seek the death penalty in a particular case. And I have made those decisions with great weight. I believe there are times it is appropriate and just, and I believe Kansas ought to retain that penalty.
A new survey from the Pew Research Center finds that 2 out of 3 Americans say politicians are only in it for themselves. Only 18% believe people who run for office do so because they want to serve the community. What can you tell us, Laura Kelly, in 60 seconds or less that those poll respondents weren't talking about you?
Oh, they were not talking about me, not at all. I mean, if a lot of you might remember back in 2018, I had no plans to run for governor. This was never on my bucket list. I really ran for governor because there wasn't anybody in the Democratic primary who could get through a primary and then could turn around and win in a general election. And I felt it my moral obligation to come in and get into that race so that Chris Kobach would not be our governor. And that's why I ran. It wasn't for me. It really was because I owed it to a state that had been so good to me and so good to my family.
Were they talking about you, Derek Schmidt?
No, as I said in my opening, I'm in this race because I believe that Kansans deserve a voice and that the past 4 years have set so many Kansas families back, making it harder to pay their bills, worried about how their kids are being taught, worried about their individual safety, and yes, many Kansans say it to me, they are worried about the direction of this country under the current federal administration. Look, my wife often tells me, I could go get a job in the real world, make a lot more money, have a lot less stress, and not have to deal with a lot of the stuff that goes on in a modern political campaign. But it is worth it if we get the opportunity to improve the lives of Kansans each and every day.
Did you want to rebut that in any way, or are you happy there, Laura Kelly?
I really did run, one, to beat Chris Kobach, but two, to fix our state. I like solving problems, and God knows Kansas had a lot of problems, and I think I brought together a team that has worked really well together and has been able to solve a lot of the problems that Kansas had, and I'd like the opportunity to continue.
Derek Schmidt.
Kansas can do better. That's why I'm in the race.
Being governor is about priorities. So congratulations. You've just been named the next governor of Kansas. You just walk into your new office in Topeka, and the first big priority you'll tackle when you sit down at your desk, Derek Schmidt, is what, and how are you going to accomplish it?
I will send to the legislature a state budget that starts to decelerate the rate of state spending growth that's occurred over these last 4 years. I mean, if you look at what Kansas has done in the last 4 years under Governor Kelly's leadership, total state spending, all funds, everything together is up by $6 billion. That is a 35% increase over when she took office. State tax-funded spending, state general fund, is up $1.8 billion. That is a 25% increase. The population of this state is roughly flat. It actually shrunk slightly in 2021. And the number of people who are employed is down from the day she took office. Look, those are not sustainable trends. We need a governor who will acknowledge them and will at least start the conversation with the legislature about how to deal with them.
And your first priority in that second term is what, Laura Kelly, and how are you going to achieve it?
To continue to do more of what we have been doing for the past 4 years. I am very proud of the fact that we have set records all over the place in economic development. I'm very proud that we have fully funded our schools, that we have closed the Bank of KDOT and are just, orange cones all over the entire state. We have really reformed our foster care system so that there are 17% fewer kids in the system, and adoptions are up by 35% in the state of Kansas. We are doing good things. We have more good things that we want to get done, but I will work on the temperature in the office because it doesn't work well.
I know you want to rebut the temperature issue, Derek Schmidt. You will set it at a completely different temperature, please.
Yeah, the thermostat won't be a priority. We'll figure that out. Look, at the end of the day, the numbers have to work. And the reality is that the way the last 4 years have unfolded, so much of what the governor talks about is simply accomplished by spending some of the enormous amount of money that the Biden administration and the Congress have printed and shoved through our economy. It's driven up state revenues as well as direct aid. That won't last forever. We have to get out in front of this curve.
Final word goes to you on that, Laura Kelly.
We're also sitting on a $1.5 billion budget surplus, the largest in state history. We have $1 billion in our rainy day fund. We are well positioned to move forward in this state. This was the result of really good fiscal management. Are we spending more now than we were before? Of course we were, but look at the huge budget cuts that we had. We had a lot of holes to fill, and then we have had a lot of one-time expenditures that have racked those numbers up, and that includes paying down serious debt.
And that is all the time you have for. You've all been given, both of you, 60 seconds to make that final case to voters as to why on earth they should pick you over your opponent, and it starts with you, Laura Kelly.
Well, no kidding around. Kansans do face another critical decision this November. We can either stay on track with an economy that's growing, or we can turn back the clock and return to the same disastrous policies that broke our budgets and broke our schools. My opponent would like you to believe that I'm someone I'm not. I think you all know me. I think you know that I really am very middle of the road, that I really do work across the aisle, and that I do bring people together. I put politics aside and just do what's best for Kansas. It's that simple.
And the final word goes to you, Derek Schmidt.
Well, in only one term, my opponent has grown the cost of state government as much as the previous 4 governors combined, and it took them 14 years. When Joe Biden's inflated federal money goes away, and it will, Kansas taxpayers will be stuck paying those bills. Kansas can do better. We can have a state with more people employed, not fewer. It's tops in recovering jobs destroyed by the lockdowns, not near the bottom of the recovery. Where daily life is more affordable for more families, we can have a state that strongly supports public education and puts parents and kids first, and where leaders defend common sense values like fairness in women's sports. We can have a safer state that fights fentanyl by standing strong on border security, and where our governor always backs the honorable men and women in law enforcement. But to have that state, we must elect a new governor. Governor Kelly won't stand up to Joe Biden and his bad policies that are funding her accomplishments that she claims, but I have, and I will. I'd be grateful for your vote.
Thank you so much. You know, questions can sometimes come from surprising places. As I was leaving for this debate, I asked my wife, do you have a question for Laura Kelly or Derek Schmidt? I'm seeing them today. She said, yes. Can you ask them to stop texting me? Would you make that commitment? Okay. No? All righty. Ladies and gentlemen, one of these 2 people on the stage will be the governor for the next 4 years of Kansas. Which one? Only you will decide on Election Day. I'm Nick Haynes from all of us here at the Doubletree Hotel in Overland Park, and from our debate sponsors at the Johnson County Bar Association. Be well, keep calm, and carry on.
The Kansas Governor's Debate on Kansas City PBS has been presented by the Johnson County Bar Association. More than 1,300 attorney members serving the community since 1938. Additional support comes from AARP Kansas, keeping Kansans in the know about life at 50+.